You get the lines down for yourself. Everyone's process is different with memorizing. But like, when you're coming in and you're doing the blocking, like that's a good time to like play an experiment before things are like locked in, like where your marks are supposed to be. And then when it's not on you, when it's other people's coverage, and hopefully yours is after, your coverage is after them, those are also moments to like play with, like, what is this delivery? And then I've been lucky enough to work with actors that like in between the takes, they want to like rehearse it to make sure we're finding it, that the rhythm is right, so that we're still growing with it while the different setups are happening, so that it's not being stale, so that it's being fresh and like, and maybe I find something in the last take that where I'm not really on camera, but it affects someone else's performance to like deepen that in a certain way. And so it's all this kind of giving and generosity, like that you still like, if the camera's not on you, you're still in the scene. Like your other actors are still reacting off of you. So it's like, you want to give as much as you can so that everyone can keep expanding in what they're doing.
Let's Shoot with Pete Chatmon is a podcast on directing for anybody that's, quite simply, ever watched anything. Visit PeteChatmon.com to get your official podcast merch, hoodies, hats, jackets, mugs, and other swag, and learn more about your host.
Let's Shoot with Pete Chatmon is sponsored by the good folks at Scriptation. Scriptation is the Emmy Award-winning app for production that allows you to mark up scripts, transfer notes, generate breakdowns, and so much more. No matter where you fall on the call sheet, Scriptation makes it easy to go paperless, collaborate with your crew, and save hours of time. Go to scriptation.com/Pete to learn more and receive a special offer exclusive to Let's Shoot listeners. Now, on to the show.
All right, what's up, people? Welcome to episode 65 of the show. This is Let's Shoot with Pete Chatmon, and today's guest is the actor Naomi King. Now, for those who listened to episode 64 last week with Kelly Park, in the outro, I said this episode will be featuring Janine Neighbors, and your host spoke incorrectly. I got my episode file folders mixed up, and that's on me. So we will have Janine Neighbors next week, another great conversation. We are back to talking to actors. That was something we didn't do during the strike, writers as well. So pardon my mistake. The switch up is still going to give you dope content back to back, but that's my apologies. And of course, I ended up seeing Janine on the Fox lot on Friday as I was being pulled on a golf cart to a concept meeting for a new show. So, I got to shout her out, but my apologies on that, y'all. Let's get back to telling you the scoop on Asia. Asia's most recent project is Apple TV's Lessons in Chemistry, and her work, coupled with the show, is amazing. She's quite deserving of an Emmy nomination for her portrayal of Harriet Sloan in the series, and in our conversation, we'll get into her journey, her process, and more. It's also a special episode where I get to sit down with a friend and learn about who they are and what makes them tick. Asia's other credits include How to Get Away with Murder, where she portrayed Michaela Pratt for 90 episodes of ABC's TGIT Shondaland programming, as well as film credits that include Sylvie's Love, Birth of a Nation, and most recently, The Knife. We recorded this while I was in LA and Asia was in Austria, so there were a couple technical things, but as always, shout out to our producer and editor, Tristan Nash, for smoothing it out. So now, the catch-up. Since last week's episode, I've been focusing on the visual deck for our high script and preparing to pitch it to the world. Producers and production companies, actors, studios, a person on the street, family member, whoever, they're about to hear this pitch. We've got our references and an amazing deck designer all ready. Michael Reynolds, whom I've worked with on probably every deck since my first commercial deck for a Spectrum commercial that I booked. So he's like, good luck, hopefully. But yeah, we've got our amazing deck designer ready to work his magic. And right now, it's really just about finding all that magical wording that sells the idea and communicates our vision in a way that will compel folks to want to get involved. I've also just started prep on High Potential. It's a new show for ABC starring Caitlin Olsen of Always Sunny in Philadelphia and Hacks fame. And it follows a single mom with an exceptional mind whose unconventional knack for solving crimes leads to an unusual partnership with a by-the-book detective. Now, that's the kind of sentence that we're trying to come up with for our heist, that kind of wordplay, that kind of specificity, that kind of you know what this is while leaving room for imagination. Those kind of sentences across a whole document. So that's the language we're working on.
Crew call.
Crew call. Before we get to the interview and this week's star of the show, Naomi King, we've got our crew call, this time with Prudence Paez, an intimacy coordinator.
Hi, my name's Prudence Paez. Hello to the Let's Shoot with Pete Chatmon audience. And this is the crew call. I'm based out of New York City and I am an intimacy coach. I also dibble and dabble in directing. I really enjoy helping people feel comfortable in their own skin while touching someone else's. Intimacy comes on so many different levels. I mean, what I want to talk to you guys today is about the initial setup of intimacy on set or in a project. First, we get the actors together and we talk about the do's and don'ts and boundaries. Everybody has their do's and don'ts. Some people may not want to kiss and use the tongue. Some people may say you can touch the side of my breast, but not my nipple. Some people will say you can touch my hip, but you can't grab my butt. And we establish those boundaries at first. The next thing we do is we sign off on all of those do's and don'ts, just so that it's in writing and everybody remembers. There's no wandering. You can always refer back to that reference. The next thing I do with them is I play the mirror game. And they mime each other to just start feeling the energy. It's great to understand and feel someone's energy in order to be intimate with them. So those are my first 2 steps in intimacy coaching. And I hope that it helps you guys to understand that's what should be taking place on set in an intimacy scene. And if by chance the budget just doesn't meet for an intimacy coach or coordinator, then you go ahead and establish those boundaries on your own. Hey, I hope you guys enjoy filming and being intimate with each other. Thanks, Pete Chatmon, for the crew call with Prudence Paez.
All right. Thank you, Prudence, for taking the time to submit that video. This approach is great. It sounds like it may work best for new and emerging actors. In the machine of television production, it's typically individual conversations with each actor around comfortability that are driven by the script and the director's approach as far as shots and physical actions. But to Prudence's point, the most important thing is making sure everyone is on the same page. People are respected and protected. There will be no surprises. And the power dynamics of a film set's hierarchy don't push an actor into doing something that they are uncomfortable with. Seems like in recent years, for me, episodes that pop into my mind are the Paloma episode of Love Life that I did, where Marcus goes back to the NYU dorm with Paloma, whom he meets at a bar, and they have sex in the dorm room, and it's, very, very methodical. There are a lot of different beats in that scene. We were in a tiny room, and it's all about figuring out exactly what will be required of the actor and what kind of wardrobe things might be. There's like modesty garments that can be put on, so people, it looks real to y'all, but people are covered up and no one's touching anybody where they don't want to be. And then also I'm thinking of episode 308 of You, where I think it's called A Swing and a Miss. And you remember the titles when you're a director. You guys may or may not, but I always appreciate the titles because they tell you what's going on. But in that episode, there was a swinging married couples party between Joe and Love and Carrie and Sherry. And it goes awry, but there was so much to coordinate in that. And it went great because everybody talks to each other like an adult and they're honest with each other. I'm clear on where I'm going to put the camera. What are the moves that need to happen? Because sometimes it might be written in a way on the page that suggests, something more than I may need in how I'm intending to shoot it. And so we all just kind of, with the help of people like Prudence, align our minds, share information. She's usually the gateway of information going back and forth to people. So there's no pressure, no politics. And then we agree and we go make the magic happen. So anyone else that is interested, go ahead and make a 2-minute video explaining what you do in your position on set. That's what these crew call videos are all about. Shoot it in landscape mode and email it to letsshootwithpetechapman@gmail.com. And we will work to get it on the show and or on our socials. Now, let's get this episode popping. This is episode 65, starring Naomi King.
Roll sound.
Speed.
The interview. Take 1.
All right. Welcoming here, Naomi King, to the podcast. How are you today? Thank you for joining us live from 9 hours away. I don't know what time it is over there.
Yes, we are 9 hours away. I am kicking it, where the hills are alive in Austria. Just having a lovely, peaceful time out here. Yep.
I love it.
And thanks for having me on this. Thank you, Pete. Appreciate it.
This is my pleasure. I was saying offline for people listening that we had kind of gotten away from people in front of the camera with the actors strike, the SAG-AFTRA strike earlier in the year and last year, really, I guess. And so now it's like, I remembered that I could talk to talented actors. And so we're taking a break from directors and we're going to learn from the people who probably have certain feelings when they see a director approaching. But we'll get to that.
Feelings of joy. No.
Feelings of joy, of course.
Yes.
But I like to, normally when I talk to an actor, I'll bring up some obscure role and ask them if they remember the character name. And usually they do, because it'll be like their first episode of Law & Order or their first credit ever.
Oh, no.
But I have more inside information on you. And my understanding is that you have backed a car down a highway in Vancouver.
Oh, okay. So somebody went to I see how this podcast is going to go. Yes.
I get what I can get.
Now, what had happened was there are some other people in the car who shall remain nameless. And those lazy people didn't want to drive. And so I had to take the reins. And now I am not a perfectionist. I make mistakes. I'm a person too. And mistake number 1 was not having someone in the car with me who's going to help me with directions while I am driving early in the morning to get us to undisclosed location, because y'all need to be all up in my business. But yes, an exit was missed. There was no one there. It's Canada. Like, who cares? And yeah, I just, went backwards, made the correct exit, and we were on our way.
And you can fix anything. What that tells me is that you live by your own rules, and you're going to get there how you need to. So let's take it back to the beginning.
Oh,
and tell me, was there a moment where you were like, all right, I'm really connected to this idea of storytelling or being in front of a camera or whatever it might have been? Like, what was that spark for you?
Oh man, I'm gonna have to say that spark was actually like an anxious mental breakdown. I was, I wish it was like a moment of absolute joy, but it was actually one of devastation, like the realization that I don't want to do anything else. And I'm quite certain I will make myself miserable trying to do this. And then lots of tears. I was very dramatic. But that's the reality of this industry. And if you're going into it, you should be thinking, in my opinion, like worst case scenario. And there should still be something in you saying, I still want to try.
How old were you when you had this moment?
I was 18. I was in high school. I was doing everything to like be on like my version of like, oh, I'm doing all the right steps to like, go to med school and be a doctor and be something that's necessary. And I was struggling because I wasn't passionate about it. So I was failing at it, and that was really challenging for me. And it felt really like embarrassing at the time because I had so many friends around me who were succeeding at these certain classes and getting the grades that I wanted. And it's funny because at the same
Right.
time I was president of choir and, leading the school play and I was always doing all of these artistic, creative endeavors because that's what brought me joy. That's what I was passionate about. But I never saw that as that could be a reality, that could be a career. And when I finally allowed myself to kind of just ingest that like the thing that I was having a blast at doing was what I really wanted to like do with my life, to pursue. Yeah, I burst into tears. It felt like a horrible moment because I was breaking out of this really accepted image I had of myself. Like I saw myself as like, I am smart and I am dedicated and I'm gonna do things that other people approve of and think that like that's what a smart person would do.
Well, isn't that's like what the machine builds you? The machine of life builds you to like live in that framework. And I don't want to interrogate the incident, but it feels like such a seminal moment. Like, were you alone in this moment? Were you like in public when you broke out into these tears? Because it feels like a moment in a script.
It does, right? It really does. No, this was many, many tears over many, many days, because then I had to go and change I had to go into school and like change all my courses and drop out of the program that I was in, because it's like, I'm not going to do this anymore. And every time I had to say that out loud to someone, invariably I would start sobbing. But the first oh my God, I was alone, and it really just hit me. And it's so funny because talking to you right now, I'm just kind of remembering like being in high school, and there was this moment, after one of the plays, and everyone has to help, break down the sets together and take, just clear the stage, take everything down once the show is over. And I had this moment on stage where everyone was gone and I was just in the theater alone, and I was standing there, and I felt like my true self. Like I felt like this is where I belong. You know what I mean? It's like, it's like something's like, this feels so right, but I don't think I can have this. Like people don't get to have this, And I was like, it's like, I'd rather, I mean, in my very dramatic, teenage self, I was like, I'd rather jump off a building than do anything else.
Right. But you have to, I love to ask this question because I feel like, and I say this probably every couple of episodes, but like this career, no matter what discipline you are attracted to and that you dedicate yourself to, and that you essentially like you're chasing it. It's like a rabbit going around a track. Like we're just running after it, forever. Yes. And even when you get it, you can only hold it but so long. And it's like, to hear other people's experience with that, I think is empowering for folks who at any feasible moment could reasonably, I won't say quit because I don't like the context of that, but like semantics of that, but like they could reasonably like stop doing what they're doing. You know what I mean? And feel like, and know that they gave it like like it took 17 years before I got like hired to do something that someone else wrote. You know what I mean? Like, and you just like have to have that fire under your ass and keep going.
Yeah. And I think that kind of openness to shift gears, like knowing that like it's okay to change course, like that's allowed, You know, like there's
Mm-hmm.
freedom, but I think there's also terror in the freedom. But like that's okay. Those things sometimes
Right.
just go hand in hand.
Right. And so was this at, you went to UC Santa Barbara?
Yes. Then I went to UC Santa Barbara where they had a theater program that I had to audition into. And
Oh,
thankfully
so
I
you
got
left,
in.
you left somewhere else before you went there.
No. I was in high school when I had like this whole thing, but I was like in this honors program that I dropped out of and like changed all my courses so that I could like just focus on doing like theater and singing and stuff. And then I, went to college, and the college that I went to had this acting program that was phenomenal. And college is where I learned about grad school. I didn't even know grad school existed for acting.
Right.
I was
Right.
like actors get to continue going to school, like, which for me, all of that felt like such a safety net, where I could explore and play, and there was no, you weren't in the
Mhm.
real world yet. You didn't have real bills to pay yet. There were no consequences, so
Mhm.
it was great to just have the opportunity to be in that environment and really fully explore this art.
Right. What would you say, like if you were to look back and kind of say, this was what I learned about myself and my craft at UCSB, and this is what I learned about myself and my craft at Yale School of Drama. Like, can you identify those two things?
Ooh. Yeah, I think what I learned at UC Santa Barbara actually helped me to get into Yale. What I learned there was it's like rehearsal is never over, even when you're performing. Like you're still rehearsing, you're still experimenting, you're still testing things out to see how far you can take it. Because I mean, for me, I don't want to wake up and think like, oh, now I figured it out, after it's already been said and
Right.
done, it's like while you're doing it, it can't be paint by numbers. You have to keep pushing the boundaries. And then if you go too far, you can dial it back. But that's what I learned at UCSB. And that helped me get into Yale, where I learned to just be open to everything. So like kind of taking that concept and then exploring even like different ideas or approaches, even if it's stuff that I don't want to do or want to try, but just being open to the experimentation and collaboration of it all. Because I do think sometimes we can get a really strong fixed sense of what a character should be like or sound like or do, and it can be handcuffs, I think. And it's good to
Right.
try out other ideas, right, and not be so held to one idea, and I think that's what has
How
helped
do
me in
you,
my career.
yeah. I still want to kind of go on this journey of like of the chronology of how you got here, but like in what you just said, how do you explore in TV, right? When in a lot of ways, exploration is not synonymous with time management. You know what I mean?
Oh,
So
yes.
how do you like incorporate this, like this desire to do that, this
Yeah.
talent and desire to not leave like,
Yeah.
things on the table and to not paint by numbers, but like
Yeah.
fit that into the constraints of television production?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, because it is challenging with TV. I mean, theater, you get so much more space to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there is still space to do that in television. You just got to do it faster. Like if I'm,
That's accurate.
right? Like you just like, it's you get the lines down for yourself. Everyone's process is different with memorizing, but like, when you're coming in and you're doing the blocking, like that's a good time to like play an experiment before things are like locked in, like where your marks are
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be. And then
Mm-hmm.
when it's not on you, when it's other people's coverage, And hopefully yours is after, your coverage is after them. Those are also moments to to
Right.
like play
Right.
with, oh, like, what is this delivery? And then I've been lucky enough to work with actors that like in between the takes, they want to like rehearse it to make sure we're finding it, that the rhythm is right,
Mm-hmm.
so that we're still growing with it while the different setups are happening, so that it's not being stale, so that
Right.
it's being fresh and like and maybe I find something in the last take that where I'm not really on camera, but it affects someone else's performance to like deepen that in a certain way. And so it's all this
Right.
kind of giving and generosity, like that you still like, if the
Right.
camera's not on you, you're still in the scene. Like your other actors are still reacting off of you. So it's like,
Right.
you want to give as much as you can so that everyone can keep expanding in what they're doing.
Do you come across, or that's leading, how often do you come across, or do you ever come across like other actors who try and direct you? Because I've seen it happen as a director. Like I'll kind of like, like one of the things I like to do is like I just watch. And so sometimes like I can see it happening like as two actors are talking through a scene, and I'm like, okay, like we'll be addressing that when we shoot it. But is that a thing that comes to life?
I think for me, the relationship that I've had with other actors, I've never felt like anyone has tried to direct me. And I think the actors that I've worked with we've always been very sensitive to one another. Like I know, depending on my relationship to someone, I know if that's the person I'm working with, like I might have a suggestion, but I'm not going to say anything to them unless they're like, man, I can't find it. What do you think? And I know like when I'm in a scene with someone, like if I feel close to them, I'm like, I don't know if this is right. Like I will ask my other actor, like, what do you think about this? Or do you think it should be this? Or like, I want their suggestion because I can play with it. I can feel it out and try it. And maybe in that play, it'll open something else up for me. But I wouldn't say I've ever really had other actors trying to direct me. I know I've had other actors being like, hey, on my coverage, I kind of really need this to help me. Can you do this on my side so I can get to this place? And it's like, of course I will give you that,
Right. That's great though, when they're self-aware enough to know what they need. You know what I mean? Like that just makes the partnership, so much better.
Yeah. And I think when you're on things, like I did How to Get Away with Murder for 6 years, we all got to know each other so well. And there was a shorthand and an ease with being able to ask one another for what we needed, and that was incredible. And then with lessons, like the directors we had on this, I thought they were just so phenomenal. And without even, I mean, sometimes like Millicent Shelton, who I know who directed my favorite episode of Lessons, like another Black woman on set, we were having moments like in these scenes where the writer might come in and be like, oh, like we think it's this, and like Millicent and I look at each other, it's like, no. It's like, that's not, as a Black parent, that's not what this moment is about. And it's like, it's just so great. Like that shorthand, that understanding, whether it's from like our own, lived experience that lines up being Black women or just working with each other for a long time.
Right.
Yeah.
That is the beauty of like the evolution of who's working and in what positions. Because I can remember even in film school, like having to defend things that I was writing as like, this is like a Black thing, and it's not up to the same like narrative constructs as what you guys are trying to make me do. And it was never an argument you could win by yourself. You were just like the fucking like, militant, like unbending, pseudo director who hadn't done anything. And you're like trying to stand your ground, but people are just trying to push it toward, this thing. And it like, it even comes up too, like when I look at like character names, right? And I can tell by the name of this character that it was not written for a Black person, and then you cast a Black person for whatever reason, but you didn't change the name, which then tells me you're not changing anything about this person that makes it specific to who they are, because who you are affects how you move through the world.
Yes,
soapbox moment.
Completely.
Sorry.
No. And but a great one. And I have had those moments too, where it's like this, like on everything I've worked on, I always have at least one of those moments where I'm like, just trust me on this, just trust me on this one. Like this, I may not be able to explain it to you, but this is cultural and this is what it is. And so I'm sorry, but you're going to have to just accept it and walk with me. Let me lead you there on this one.
Right.
Yes.
And then they do it willingly, don't they?
No, it's a lot of like,
okay.
Okay.
All right.
It's like, great. Or me just being stubborn and being like, I'm going to do it like this anyways.
There's that too. I mean, gosh, I won't put I won't put my tricks out for the public, but you got to do what you got to do sometimes. I have one more acting question before we go back. If you're in a 2-person scene, or any amount of people, right? And how do you feel about like the person whose coverage it is getting more notes on what they're doing toward a performance goal, and you're getting notes as well, but maybe not the full scope of what the director is intending for you, because they're like, this is matching what that person is doing, and where I'm hoping and where I think the response works with what you're doing. But I feel like there's like final things that we can find together when it's your coverage. Do you like that type of approach, or do you want to be like fully noted, you know what I mean, when it's not on you?
I mean, okay, if I think I understand the question correctly, I just thought about like my emotional experience of watching actors get a lot of notes, which I think is kind of an uncomfortable.
Well, let me can I edit it? I want to say like not a lot of notes, but like just whatever the notes may be to like get to what like the director might be thinking. And then like, you have, but you're not necessarily giving all the notes to the other actor because you still want to be able to get there on camera. Does that make sense?
I think so. Okay. So when I mean, there's one thing, like, I always like it when a director pulls an actor aside, because for me, if I hear their note, my performance is already affected, because like now I know, oh, so they might do that. Okay. So how would I react then if they do that? Like I'm already like plotting and crafting because we got a short amount of time.
Right.
And if it's not my coverage and it's on them, this is my chance to practice with their new note. Now, if it's done off in secret, they're pulled away to get the note, then I'm just, chilling, waiting, being open, expecting a surprise. Yes, exactly. Right. So then the reaction might be a little bit more spontaneous, and then who knows what the director might say to me afterwards. But yeah, if I hear someone else's note, it's most likely going to, it's not affect my performance, but it's going to make me want to play with my performance just from listening to someone else's note. Yeah. I think, does that answer your question?
So it does. It was not the most like eloquently phrased question, but I'll tell you where it comes from. Here's where it comes from. I've had it happen maybe like once, where one actor, over the course of the episode, you begin to like, see how people work and what the strengths may be. So it was like a scene where it was like, okay, I feel like this person whom the camera's on right now, they're right there. It's like, it's perfect, right? And then when we turn around to the other actor who I know like it's gonna be in like 2 or 3 takes. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So then it's like, now I might give that note that just kind of like tweaks it a little bit. And then in this particular case, the actor who went first felt like, oh, well, now it's so different from what I was responding to, and it doesn't work, and we need to turn around again. And it's like, but that's it. That wasn't. It's about what the desired like landing of the scene was, and you know what I'm saying. And even though it might like you might not have gotten everything that just did on you, it's like, well, the converse of that is like, you're also not giving them exactly what you gave on camera back. So it was like this weird thing where I was like kind of dealing with, I guess, someone's connection to being absolutely true in the moment, while what usually is happening is there's some construction of it, and you have to factor in like how you get there with all the different actors in a scene. You know, just like somebody who likes to go first all the time, and then once the camera is off them, they stop giving you anything.
Which that would never be me. I would never do that. But you know, for me, I'm like, I have so much trust in the story. Like if I have agreed to do this, I trust the story. I trust the direction. I trust the edit. Like I trust you're going to snip, and piece it together and make it make sense, you know, like, and I do my best to just let all of that go. Like when the camera's on me, I try to give the performance that like we are collectively trying, like, you know, to land the plane, like tell this story, you know what I mean? And even if someone else's work is being altered and it might have changed their alteration might have changed something, I would still most likely feel like, you'll edit it. You'll cut it together. And if it's not right, you'll say, let's do it again, or let's reshoot something, you know, like, and that's, I mean, but I really do think like you have to, and I mean, and I understand that sometimes people have worked in environments that haven't felt collaborative, that they haven't felt like they could trust people or feel safe. And I've been really lucky that the environments I've been in, I've always felt respected as an actor and what I've been bringing to it. So I could trust that it was in everyone's best interest that the story make sense, you know? So it's like, then that sort of thing doesn't get to me you know what I mean?
Right. No, there is an inherent level of trust that is crucial and is not always there. And maybe in different people's, you know, journeys may be there now, but maybe wasn't there on the last thing, you know? So like we're always coming to the table with our own luggage. You know, we're all collectively trying to figure out how to get it off the carousel, you know?
Yes. Yeah. And I think too, my outlook typically has been a very positive one. Like, that's just like me as a human being. I'm only ever looking for the positive.
That's facts. All I've ever seen is positive Asia, which is great.
Like, but like, I also think it's kind of like my security blanket in a way. Like, even if someone was like trying to like diss or disrespect me, it might just like I don't see it. I don't, because I don't receive that. Like I'm above
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm above that. Like, I'm going to make this a good experience, whether you want me to or not.
Right.
You know? Yeah.
Right. Now I'm going to take a little bit of that and add it to my toolkit.
Yes.
Hey, what's up, y'all? This is Kelly Park, director of Lopez vs. Lopez on NBC, and you are listening to Let's Shoot with P. Chapman.
Transitions, a director's journey and motivational handbook, is Pete Chapman's book from Michael Weezy Productions. The reviews are in. Greg Berlanti says, "There's a reason why everyone who works with Pete falls in love with his work. The lessons he imparts here are invaluable. Do yourself a favor and read it cover to cover." From Sarah Gamble, Pete's sharing gold nuggets that will spare you a ton of wasted time and help you channel your drive, talent, and ambition in the most productive way. And from Jesse Williams. This business has everything to do with preparation and expectations. Transitions grounds lessons in reality while empowering our artistry to run free. Not an easy balance to execute. Transitions, a director's journey and motivational handbook is available on Amazon and anywhere else you get your books. Don't forget about your mom and pop shops, people.
Let's Shoot with Pete Chapman is sponsored by the good folks at Scriptation. Scriptation is the Emmy Award-winning app for production that allows you to mark up scripts, transfer notes, generate breakdowns, and so much more. Personally, I use Scriptation daily on every production that I'm involved with. When I directed the season 1 finale of Dead Boy Detectives, currently streaming on Netflix, I was able to harness the power of the app to keep my creative and budgetary needs aligned, thanks to the ability to insert other production documents right into my script. It was a game changer to have my storyboards and visual effects budget conveniently placed within the script before all the big scenes. This is just one of the ways I use the incredible features inside of Scriptation. Go to scriptation.com/Pete to get an exclusive 20% off Scriptation's premium toolkit, Scriptation Industry Pro. So after Yale, you get your MFA, like, what was your thought on a career? What were you like? I'm gonna be, because everybody's like, a lot of people are like, I'm gonna be the next. Like, did you have that, or did you have a kind of roadmap for yourself?
Funny. I never wanted to be the next anyone. I always wanted to be the first me. That was always something in my head, because I would hear people like saying that sort of thing. And I even remembered when I would do meetings for like when I first signed on with agents and a manager, if they just started comparing me to every Black actor they could think of, I was just like, I don't think this is a fit.
Right.
Like if that's the only thing you can pull out your pocket that you can name Black people that act, then we're not going to work well together. Yeah, I really thought I was going to be more in the theater space. I really thought I was going to be on Broadway, and that did not happen. And I was there weren't even auditions really. Like I very rarely got, I think I did like maybe 2 plays when I graduated Yale, and they were like off Broadway, so far from Broadway, so very far. And I was living in New York, and like for me, I was like, but that's the thing, you gotta get on Broadway, you gotta do this theater stuff, like, because that's incredible, and that's where you like grow and expand and become an even greater artist. And it didn't happen. The opportunities were not there. There weren't enough opportunities for young Black women at that time, and maybe still currently. And it was, and it was really disheartening for me. And I mean, we see it even now. It's like Broadway is full of very famous people most of the time, and that's really hard when that's the place that that you're fighting to get to. But I would still love to do a Broadway show. Anyone out there?
Hey.
Right. But yeah, it was, I booked my first gig like in independent film and TV. Like I think Blue Bloods was my first TV show guest star.
That's what I see here as your first TV credit. I see from what Jada, our assistant producer, has put together. I see Blue Bloods in 2010. You played Denise.
Oh yes, Denise.
And then I see your first film credit as Gloria Mundi in 2008.
Oh, that was
a dancer.
And that was a student film made by my friend Sarah Lasley. We were still at Yale when we shot that. And so that was a good time. That was fun. But then my first like professional indie after that was this film 4, where Wendell Pierce played my dad, which that was awesome. Even though we didn't have lessons together, it was still awesome just to say he played my dad. And he's, what a sweet man he is, by the way. Oh my God, he's so lovely. Like, actor's actor, just so like wanting to give me advice about like how to treat auditions in this industry. And I'll never forget, because he was like, sometimes your team will be like, don't go all the way out of the way. Like, if they want you, they'll go out of the way to get you. He's like, sometimes you just got to get on a plane and show up. And I was like, that sounds like good advice. Like, I'm gonna show up.
Yeah.
Man,
yeah. That's the best advice. I feel like whenever you have that extra, I don't know, like almost everything that has come my way that has been like, maybe a little bit of a step up, it's because I was hungry and passionate about it. Like jobs for like interviews for a job, an episode where I put together a deck, like I'm trying to get the pilot. You know what I mean? Like just stuff like next level participation to let them know, like, I don't play around.
Exactly.
And that's great advice to anybody listening, and also to a young Asian Naomi King.
Like, right. And it makes people so hungry and eager to work with you when they see you're bringing so much passion to the table. Like it gets them excited because then they know, like, all right, like she's someone this person's someone who's going to jump in and really go after this, and I can rely on that.
Yeah,
like, because we know,
and I can relax.
Yes, I could, right? Because so much is an uphill battle.
Yeah,
right. Like
there's just folks like who do things where I'm like, when I read, like, whether it's like a script or like I've done shows where I'm like, I get the script and I'm like, I know this is tight. And then there's other ones where like, I got to really interrogate this because that don't make sense. And like, and why is it in this room on the set? It can't even hold this many people. And like, and so then now you're like, I got to look at every scene with like a fine tooth comb, when really I thought I was just here to not be the logic police, but to direct the scene,
Oh, yeah.
So rely and relax is beautiful.
It is. It really is.
So what was the first job where you were like, okay, I think I had my high school tears for this reason. It's all lining up. You know what I mean? Like it's all coming together.
Oh, yeah. So that would be when I booked my first series regular job, Emily Owens, MD, with your fabulous wife, Kelly McCreary. That's when our best friendship started.
There it is.
It is.
2012.
Oh, my God. So long ago. That's crazy. It's so funny too, because I saw Kelly's casting. I read her casting in the trades, and I hadn't gone in for like my camera test yet. And I saw that she was cast, and I was like, oh, they got their Black girl. Like they're not going to choose me now. Because everything was still in that there can only be one framework. I felt kind of defeated, but I still wanted to make a great impression, because I thought, well, maybe down the line, these people will want to work with me. So I still went in and gave it everything I had and did everything I could, and I remember leaving feeling really proud of myself, because I was like, no matter what, like I did a great job. I showed up in that room, and I can respect the work that I did, even though I know I'm not going to get this job because they already cast a Black girl. And then surprise, they cast me too. And I was shocked. And
it sounds like you won that. It sounds like you really won that role, because I think that role is kind of an example of the last name not changing. You know what I mean?
Cassandra Copelson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you won that role. You won that. You snatched that away from somebody's.
Yes. I think so too. I think I charmed them in the room. Yeah. that felt
Yeah,
really good.
yeah.
And that was definitely the moment when it was like all the tears were worth it. I was like, I'm big time, baby. I made it now. Yeah. I mean, truly, there's nothing like
So
that first series regular job.
Yeah, no, the weight that I can only imagine the weight that comes off your shoulders, like the validation that you receive, the financial, infusion that you
That part.
receive. You're just like, okay, like
Yes.
this is what I've been trying to get toward. So how'd you go from that to Now to Get Away with Murder?
Oh, well,
I know that's like,
short-lived
it's not a
series.
one-word answer, but like
Perseverance, hope. It's so
Yeah.
funny because so after Emily Owens was that show was canceled and moved back to New York, and auditioning, doing the whole thing, having some truly heartbreaking, like, I think I may have to quit acting experiences, like devastating, like could have sworn I was, everything they ever wanted, really thought I proved myself. And it's like, no, it's not you. And I started like putting this calculation together in my head of like, oh, like we read the script, we learn the lines, I do my hair, I buy the clothes, I'm doing my makeup, I'm carrying all this stuff in my bag because it's New York and you got to carry a big bag and ride on the subway and basically do your hair all over again and redo your makeup once you get into the space to make sure you look perfect, and change your clothes because you done sweat through the shirt that you were originally in, and put your heels on and walk into these rooms like
things dudes do no part of. Yeah.
Right. Like so much goes into it. And then you're in that room for like maybe 2 minutes. Like all of that effort for 2 minutes of being actually seen for something. And it was really getting to me because I was just getting rejection after rejection after rejection. And there was like one part where I got so close to it. I just remember like the casting director was in tears. I was in tears. I wanted it so badly. And when that one didn't happen, I was really like, I don't know if I can do this anymore. Like this is really painful. And I think I stayed in bed for a week. I was like, I can't. I mean, I didn't really stay in bed because I had a job. I was like hostessing at a restaurant somewhere.
The proverbial
stayed in bed. Exactly. And then, and I'm a big TV watcher. I was already a massive fan of Grey's Anatomy and Scandal. And I'll never forget getting the email from my agents that this was like a Shondaland show that Pete Nowak wrote. And it was How to Get Away with Murder. And I read the script and I read like the part that I was going to get to go in for. And I was like, oh my, and just like, this is it. Like, I was like, I know I could be so right for this. And I just dove in with everything. And maybe that's like what this industry is like you get so broken down, but the fire is never extinguished. It just becomes embers. And the second someone throws a piece of wood on it, it's just like the flames are burning and raring to go. And like something was lit inside of me for this because when I went to audition for this, like everything was just going right, and that is how I got How to Get Away with Murder, this intense excitement and joy and also like massive hard work.
I remember when
I was religiously working on these lines and playing with it and experimenting with it. And I refused to be afraid in the room. I was like, I'm going to ask questions if I need to ask questions. Like I told myself, go into that room, ask questions, get the specifics you need. Like in this moment, there's no time for like, oh, like, should I ask them? Like, is the character more like, no, like, is it this? Like, I was even asking them, like, is it Michaela or is it Mikola? Like, what are we doing? You know, like, I was like, let's talk, let's dive in. Tell me all your thoughts. And I think they read that like, just how deliberate I was being about everything and my eagerness and I felt like I was hitting all the right notes and yeah, and I mean, before I walked out of that building, I was offered the part.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's dope. Okay. That's amazing. I mean, but that's so like, I always, in TV, at least in the rare times where like I really get to be involved in like an extensive casting, I'll always ask, hey, do you have any questions? And I will say, I'm going to do what I hate people do, but like 99% of the time, like, unfounded research, but 99% of the time, no one has a question. And I guess there's a world where it's like maybe like your take will like kind of, bring something out of us that we might not have expected. But a lot of times it's like you could have got the tone correct. Like let's say you come in and the tone's a little off, then you could have asked to confirm the tone. And then like your first pass at it would have been right in the pocket versus like 45 seconds of like, what's going on here? You know? So yeah, just like harnessing the information so you can have as much as you need to do a great job.
Yes. And treating the other people you're working with like we're co-conspirators here, like this is our little secret project that we get to like work on and mold into something really incredible. Like the relationship between actors and directors and writers, it has to be so intimate. Like I know for me personally, I need to feel close to you because I want to like just tell you everything I'm thinking, vomit up all my like fears and everything so that we're on the same page and we can and I want to hear your fears as well. And then we can take care of each other, like that's how I think this should work. Like, let's take care of each other.
Yeah. Yeah. And you want to be in a safe space to have a half-baked idea that sometimes you're not even sure of, but you're like, I had this thought and it might not even land, but let's try it. I just thought this when I read it. And they can be like, it would never be that. And you're like, oh, okay, cool. Now I know. But like to not be judged for trying to enhance and elevate something with spontaneity.
Yes. Yeah. Or like, I'm big on, and if I hear like an actor counterpart of mine, like saying like, I was wondering if it could be like, let's try it. Let's explore it. Let's see how far we can take it. Like, and if it's not in the world, we'll do something else. We'll throw it away. But it's like, we don't have to be precious about it. Let's do something specific together.
It's a very tough thing though. Like, and first off, I mean, I applaud you, and I'm so happy to hear like you've maintained this like honesty in your approach to the craft and dare I say like innocence while being part of a kind of masterful design. You know what I'm saying? Like, but like it becomes really tough to do that because like I'm thinking of a scene that I did in You, and we were going back and forth on it, and I was like, damn, I was like, fuck it, and I gave this note to Penn Badgley, and halfway into it, I was like, oh, that ain't the note, right? Like halfway in, I was like, that ain't the note, and I went over to him after. I was like, yo, that's on me. Like I'm just trying something, and I thought that might work, but it does not. So that if that take felt weird, that's on me, you know? And it was cool though, because it was like, I think there was like a moment of appreciation in the, like, I'm going to own, that. And not being like, so tightly wound and conformed around something that you're not willing to try. Because if you don't try, you're going to always wonder if that might have worked.
Yes. Exactly. And being able to own up to when it doesn't work, which I also think is great so that other people don't feel crazy. Or start like
Yeah.
blaming
Yeah.
themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
am I doing something wrong? Like, yeah, it's nice
Hmm.
to be
Hmm.
transparent in that way.
Right. So what's interesting, and now we'll kind of like hop, skip, and jump to lessons in chemistry. What's
Yeah.
interesting is that, and you can address this or not because it might be a controversial thing or a thing you have feelings
Oh.
about. But I feel like what I feel like what people are able to see in lessons in chemistry is the start of what you would have been introducing to them from Birth of a Nation. But
Mm,
in terms of just talent and in terms of like how to maybe envision you know what I mean? Like, cause
yeah.
a lot of this casting shit is enveloped around people having a limited idea of what you could do. And so
Yes.
when you start having these portrayals that broaden the idea of who you can be on camera, then people begin to think of you for so many more things.
Yes.
So to hop to this show and be able to watch the work in that show, to me, it's what was going to happen from that. But
Yes.
controversies and other things prevented that from happening. So
Yes.
here we are.
Yeah.
And we are looking at, what should hopefully be a nomination for Best Supporting Actress in a limited series. Since we are coming off talking about like getting a role, how did you end up in that? Because just for people listening, some may know, some might not, but like there's all kinds of, I don't even know the right word, but like I'll use stigma, but it may not be the right one. But like, there's a stigma like for directors. Like when I started doing like the premium cable stuff, it was like, can you do that? And then when you get there, they're like, okay, now you're a premium cable guy. And like, if you do broadcast, sometimes they're like, well, can this person, do the premium? So how did you manage to maneuver that, if there is any specific story to share, how you were cast in that role as
Yeah.
Harriet Sloan?
It's so funny. So when I went in for this project, I went in for completely different part, a part that didn't even end up existing anymore. The script was changed.
Right.
And I met with the showrunner and it was just a match, like they wanted to work with me, which I felt really lucky about. And I also feel like that's a very rare occurrence. That it was actually kind of weird for me. I was like, they're not making me jump through hoops I don't understand. you know what I
Right.
mean? Like, they're just bringing
Right.
me in on this project, and I didn't know much about what it was going to be, but I read the book. And then all of a sudden the conversation changed from the role I was originally looking at to, "Oh, well, now we want you to be Harriet Sloan." And then I was like, wait, I read the book. Harriet Sloan is the white lady across the street who like raises her child for her. I don't know about this.
Right.
I mean, a great character in the book. I love that character in the book. And they found a way for my character to serve that same function, minus the raising of her child, but to more so be in,
Right.
to build a community around one another, so that I wasn't fully there only in service of her, but that we were meant to be in service of each other, which I really appreciated.
Right.
And we had a lot of conversations around.
I-
But I want to touch on what you brought up, because I do think it's important. The thing about this industry is, it's like getting struck by lightning when you get one of those kinds of parts that you feel like is going to just send you on this upward trajectory, and your whole career is going to change overnight in some like way that you couldn't even fathom before. And then when all of that falls apart, it's it's a good reminder of what this industry actually is. It is fickle. There are ups and there are the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. And so, you know, when I read this, when I did this, I knew it would be good because of the people attached and what they were trying to do and the story that they were telling, and that it was Apple TV. I was like, I know this will be great. You know,
They're gonna have money.
right? Like, right. I never would have expected to be in those kinds of like awards conversations like that. I was not expecting at all. And it really took me by a joyful surprise because it is, but the tricky thing about it is that fear, like this was limited series, one season, that fear
Right.
that you will never be in that position again because the opportunities just do not come along that often. And so when that lightning does strike, you do your best to capitalize off of it in every possible way to extend that high, you know, for as long as you can, because of the fickle nature of this. It's like I could do this and then I might not work for 2 years, you know, like it's so important to have things that you love outside of this to keep you grounded and centered, because if you put all of yourself into this, it can destroy you. Because I don't know anyone whose climb in this industry has just been all up, you know? And so it's like you have to have a creative security and a family or friend security, that like things that you delve into that give your life meaning and purpose beyond this industry. Because it's like this show has been such a blessing to me to have my name in conversation with people that I admire. It's phenomenal, you know, but I am also very acutely aware of the fact that might not ever happen again. And maybe I'm wrong, you know, and again, like I'm a really positive person. I know that sounds negative, but
no, but you have to, you know what, like you have to appreciate what I gather from that is that you know you deserve it, but you also appreciate the uniqueness of the moment and know that it is not a guarantee. Now, I would, if we were talking offline, you might say, you know, I feel pretty positive of my trajectory going from here, but you also know that there's no guarantee. Like I feel the same blessing. Like I get, you know, I get a good deal of work each year, you know what I mean, to direct shows. And I'm like, but I know that that's not a guaranteed, you know, ceiling for me. It can go down, it can go up, it can stop, you know? And so while the kind of super positive, confident fuel that got you here is always going to be there, you still have to be realistic about the fact that it can go away for reasons, you know, that you could have a part in and some that you don't. You know, sometimes it can just be like, you know, they could up and decide that they're just not going to make TV anymore. Like, I mean, unlikely, but it could happen. You know what I mean? And so then like, then what are we going to do?
I think a big part of it for me, it's something that it's something I'm working on. It's about like releasing control, you know, or releasing the idea that I can control anything. And that frees me up a little bit because I have to say, like, look, out of Yale, I am not the most talented actor that was in that class. Like I would be doing a disservice to all of the artists that are in my life that I know and love, whose work I have seen and who haven't even had the opportunity to work in the way that I have had. It's like so much of this has been luck for me. I mean, and talent and perseverance and diligence and hard work, but also a hell of a lot of luck, because I know other artists that are just as hardworking as I am, and it just hasn't hit. It doesn't, for some reason, they haven't been afforded the same opportunities. And so I have to, for me, let go of the idea that I can control any. It's like you can work as hard as you can work, and the only outcome you can control is hopefully being proud of what you have done in that room when you were auditioning or having that conversation, because you can't control anything else. And you can't convince yourself that like, oh, if I just do this and hold my breath and throw salt over my shoulder, then I'm going to get the job. And then if I keep holding my breath, then I'm going to get a nomination from this job. And you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, and so it's like releasing that idea of control and understanding that there are no guarantees, like you just said.
Yeah. But you're speaking my language now. Like this is like, this is what I think about all day long. And I will, and you tell me if you agree or disagree, but I actually do think there one part of the like gumbo that you've described as like your toolkit as a professional in this industry, as a craftsperson in this industry, like that thing you mentioned where like you're above the negative stuff, that thing you mentioned where like you're super, like you're doing the work and you're positive and you're like that is control. You know what I mean? Like, and that is, I feel like that is such, I feel like it, on any given day, right? Like, just like no matter what we do, right? There's all the elements that go into the thing. And then at any given moment, like for me, like any given moment, it's like, oh, this scene might be really driven by the performance, or this one is actually driven by the camera, or this one is going to be driven by the music. Like you kind of know what drives it. And I feel like it's hard to say on any given day what it is, but like having what you're talking about in the sense of like that positive attitude, like I would bet money that the people that you're thinking about when you say like, I was not the most talented, and I say the same thing, but I guarantee they don't think about this shit the way I do. Like, so at a certain point, the talent doesn't matter, because if you can be knocked off your block by the guaranteed things that are going to happen in this industry, then you're just kind of missing part of the cocktail. You know what I'm saying? And like, and over a long enough timeline, like if I can withstand the incessant waves of bullshit that keep coming at me for years, and I can keep getting up on my feet while drenched and typing another script, like, or like going on another audition, at a certain point, like just the sheer duration of my like non-compliance to be beaten down is going to yield the results of a career. And then if you have the nerve or the talent to actually get good at what you're doing while you're getting beaten down all that time, they can't fuck with you, because now like you've not only built up your resilience, but you've built up your craft. And so now they're over here with craft but no resilience. So I don't know. I feel like that is this part that we can control. Now, it doesn't make people hire us per se, but I do think it's a part of why we do get hired. So is there anything you want to share about your experience on lessons that stands out to you as an artist and as an actor?
Oh man, I mean, it's just great working on something with great writing. Like Lessons was amazing because of what I got to do and the story I got to tell, and stepping into Harriet's shoes and being able to help craft what that world even looked like. Like I got the, set to use pictures of my family and the family home. So it's like I had my parents' baby pictures up on the walls, and like, and my great aunts and my grandma. It was beautiful, because like then walking to that space, like it was really truly mine, and that felt really special. And I guess, that kind of ownership, I just want to continue to take with me into every experience I have. Just walking into a space and knowing that that this belongs to me just as much as it belongs to everyone else. And I have a responsibility to care for this in the way that it gets put together in the same way that everyone else does. And I am no more or less important than anyone else here. It's like it's so beautiful when we can all work together as a team and create something, because the impact of what we do it astonishes me truly. Like I am so moved by the people that come up to me to tell me what my work means to them. And knowing that like I'm in this dark sound stage sitting in front of a camera saying something, and it's reaching out there and touching someone on the other side of the world.
Yeah.
That's insane. Like, that's amazing. It's powerful and it's important. And I'm just grateful that I get to do it.
And was there how familiar were you with the history and legacy of the 10 freeway?
Not at all. Did not know that, which I'm like, not surprised I didn't. It's not like it was taught or anything, but it's like, it's just another one of those stories, another one of those really important untold stories that I'm so glad that I got to take part in sharing for anyone else like me that had no idea that this entire beautiful, thriving Black community was entirely displaced.
Yeah, no, that was one of I was really happy to see that given proper time and space and narrative real estate in the show. That was really great.
Yes. And yeah, that I have to say, like, I really, because sometimes people tell you something like, oh, this is what your part's going to be. And it ends up being like one scene. And I feel like, right. And the creators were really true to their word with the story that they were going to tell with my character, that they wanted to have these moments of her and like, and what motherhood was like for me, how the relationship with my husband was like, how my ambition was affecting my family, what being an activist looked like and felt for Harriet, and wanting to do so much for this community, but the toll it's taking, on her personal life. Like there were just so many beautiful, intimate moments that were explored and were given so much landscape, and it blew me away. It really did. I was so grateful that I had this opportunity to show so much of her, and that she wasn't just like in the corner being like, hello, neighbor,
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Which it could very easily be. Well, what's next up? I know that you did the pilot for, is it Grosse Pointe Garden Society?
Yes, Grosse Pointe Garden Society did that pilot. Okay. So we're waiting to hear. And we'll see. And I got to work with Namdi. You know Namdi.
I do.
Yes, I got to work. Our film that we did, The Knife, just had its premiere at Tribeca, which was really nice.
Okay. I didn't know that's what he was there for. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, and I know him. I don't know if maybe we met one time. Obviously, I've known Carrie much longer. But that's what's up. That's the second time you guys are working together.
Yes. Yeah.
All right.
Awesome.
Well, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. And as I say, with the interviews that are with people that I've known, I've learned more about you now than I have in the last years of knowing you. So this has been great.
This has been great. Thank you. I really appreciate this. This was lovely.
What's up, people? This is Pete Chatmon. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter via @PeteChatmon. Follow the pod on IG via @Let'sShootWithPeteChatmon, and hit up our mailbag with questions, suggestions, or hey, donations if you're feeling like it, via let'sshootwithpetechatmon@gmail.com. And just in case you need to know how to spell it, that's Pete with the last name CHATMON. Let's Shoot with Pete Chatmon is produced and edited by the multi-talented cut creator Tristan Nash, assistant produced by the young mogul Jada George, and features the wonderfully gifted Kelly McCreary as our announcer. It's written by yours truly, but I mostly come up with these questions on the fly, which you've probably noticed. Go ahead and get your podcast swag via petechatmon.com and leave a review on iTunes if so inclined. That shit matters. Let's Shoot with Pete Chatmon is sponsored by Scriptation. Scriptation makes it easy to go paperless on set, increase your productivity, and save hours of time. Let's Shoot listeners get a special discount on Scriptation Industry Pro. Go to scriptation.com/Pete to learn more.
All right, thanks for listening, y'all. Tune in next week for Janine Neighbors, writer, producer, creator, showrunner, all the things behind such hits as Atlanta and Swarm. And in the meantime, stay safe, spread love, and keep creating.